Well, excited to be joined here on MASN All Access by Matt Blood, the Orioles Vice President of Player Development and Domestic Scouting. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
So first and foremost, want to start with that title because the domestic scouting part of it is new for you. What have the last few weeks, month or so looked like for you as we approach draft season?
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. We have a very good department in the scouting realm, and just jumping in and working with those guys has been great. And I'm excited, to do this first draft together.
Now, obviously, over the last few years, we have seen a lot of success come from that scouting department. How do you balance not trying to reinvent the wheel and fix things that have been working already versus, hey, I want to bring in fresh ideas and make sure that we're still pushing here?
Well, I think this organization, when it's led by Mike and Sig, they have incredible amount of experience when it comes to the draft. And so it would be very silly of me to think that I was going to come in and just be smarter than them. So I really have learned a lot from them in my career, and we just work really well together. And so it's my job to just continue doing what it is that they know how to do this well. So it's really not going to be much different. I'm just there working with the team.
Now, has moving into the scouting realm changed your lens for player evaluation at all, having come from the development side of things?
No, not really. I started as a scout in my early part of my career, 7 years as an area scout. So the draft is something I'm very familiar with. The agent side of things, working with agents, is something I'm very familiar with. So no, it's all pretty much the same.
Now, we've talked before and you've said everything kind of works together, right? Good scouting leads to good development, and then once you develop well, it makes the scouting look even better. How valuable has it been for you to have that development background and to know how those two things can work together?
It's extremely valuable to be able to go back and forth and to create synergy between the two departments. It's really a good thing for the players, because efficiency of development is of utmost importance when it comes to these players' careers. They're constantly having to be involved in competition with players, and they want to develop as fast as they can. And when we're able to draft players and develop them sort of with the same goals in mind, the efficiency improves, and they get as good a chance as possible, to be the major leaguers that they want to be.
Yeah, I feel like we always talk about that cohesion in terms of player development, where from level to level, the messaging is the same. But it sounds like, from a drafting and development perspective as well, that same cohesion is there too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of, I would say, our competitive advantage, is that we're not drafting players for reason X and then the player development saying, no, we like reason Y, we're going to completely change them. No, we're all on the same page, and we have a lot of efficiency when it comes to the player's development.
So I was talking with Roberto Mercado down in Bowie, and he has gotten the chance to see a lot of the top draft picks from the last few years. And I asked him, hey, are there any traits that a lot of those guys share that allow them to be successful minor leaguers? And he said they're just ball players. You look at them and they're ball players. So I'll ask you, what are some traits that you can look at and point to and say, hey, that guy's going to be a ball player for us?
Well, we always look for tools that play. They need to be able to run and throw and hit, play defense, have some power, obviously. But players that like to play the game, players that like to practice, players that like to compete, typically do pretty well if they also have tools, right? If they don't like being out there, if they don't want to work, well, then they're probably going to get passed up by somebody else. So I think we have a lot of players who really like to play, and that's what Roberto, I think, is talking about.
Now, at the back half of the first round here, talking about this draft specifically, seems like a lot of good depth in the college hitter route. Seems to be up the Orioles' alley a little bit. Can you talk about some of the depth at 22 and 32 where you guys sit?
I think there's depth across the board. Yes, there are college hitters, but there are also some pretty interesting high school hitters. There's some good college pitching as well. So, somebody's going to fall to us at 22, and I think we're going to be excited about whoever it is that we get. We have a long list of players and a bunch in there that if we were able to land them, we would be very, very excited.
And you've got number 32 as well as number 22. How exciting was it for you guys to, yes, Gunnar Henderson had an amazing year last year, and now he's also helping you in a future draft?
Well, it's just part of our strategy of sustainability. Like, we need to be able to acquire talent and develop it, right? And so the more draft picks that we have, the more shots we have at acquiring talent and at developing that talent to the major leagues.
And the draft is in a different phase for the Orioles now than it has been in past years. Not picking in the top 5, which I'm sure you guys are happy about because it means the record is better here.
Yeah.
But it's a different phase where you're in the back half of the first round. You're maybe trading some prospects at the deadline if you need big league talent. You've had the #1 farm system in baseball for years now. How do you make sure in this different phase that you are maintaining that standard of excellence?
Sure. Well, our ultimate job is to be a good Major League Baseball team, right? And so that's what our whole strategy will be around. It's not necessarily to have the #1 farm system. I mean, that's a great thing, but ultimately, like, we're trying to be the best Major League team. And so if that means picking later in the draft, great. If that means trading some of our prospects and weakening our farm system but strengthening our Major League team, great. But ultimately, we need to continue a pipeline of talent. And to do that, we need to continue to draft well, not just in the first round, but throughout the draft, which we've been able to do so far. And we need to develop these players very well. And that's what I talk about with efficiency of development. We need to give these players the best chance possible to become major leaguers. Not all of them will, but if we can provide them with the best chance, then more of them will than maybe some other teams, and that's where our competitive advantage is going to lie.
Yeah, well, the Orioles have had a lot of those players over the past few years, but Matt, we appreciate the time and the insight. We're looking forward to the draft.
Awesome.